Good morning. It's actually morning. Good morning. Let's just have a stitch. Let's have a drink today. I seem to have returned to some sense of normalcy in my day again. Not exhausted today. Feel just fine. Got up, showered. I lazed about a bit. I even did some tidying. And on shower days when I wash my hair, you can tell my shower days from my wet hair, just, as a tidbit. If you watch these every day, you'll know. Is Tina staying up on her COVID showers or not? Ooh, and let me move my hand. It's bizarre that you can cover up your camera with your finger when you're holding it in the back, but you're recording in the front. Not sure how that works. But then I also do the whole lotion routine that I told you about the other day. So, all right, today, guess what I found? The Sashiko squares have been located. Let's pull this back. They have been located. Where were they, you ask? Well, on Sunday when I went out, on Saturday when I went out and about, I tucked everything into this lovely project bag. One of my favorites. You too can get them. This is not a paid placement. Well, it kind of is because I am the payee and the payer. But these are project bags from Black Sheep Fiber Emporium. I believe they're $8. Not very much. But I love them because they're clear and you won't lose your projects. But also because these are the bigger ones. I used to have smaller ones and I've run out and I cannot locate the person I bought those from before. They don't answer my emails. So I only have big ones left, but I have quite a few big ones and they are available for you for the low, low price of $8, just so you know. I use them a lot because there's two reasons I use them a lot. I like these little handy tote things. I did design them, not that I'm like they're original or anything, but I designed them because I like to carry them. I like it that there's an opening here and here. Even when it's zipped up, you have openings on the side, so you can use it as a yarn bowl, yarn pouch. What got me started on these is my youngest child used to ride horses a lot, and I could take my knitting to the stable where all that crap and dirt and dust and hair is, and I could knit safely because the project was in my hands and the yarn was in the bag, the plastic bag that I could see when it got mucky and I could wipe it down. So, just a thing. If you ever run across this video and you see this bag, this is how you do it. There are other bags, makeup bags sometimes come this way. The original I think I purchased was a makeup bag. So, you can keep your eye out for like 3 packs of sample shampoos and things. They come in smaller versions of this bag. But this is the big version that I designed. And I got my little sheepy with the yarn on it, which I also like. So the Sashiko squares were in the bag with my knitting, in the trunk with the bag, because I took it over to Tony's when we did our little sew-in on Sunday, and I just didn't bring it back in the house. And so, of course, I cleaned my whole house. Not that you'd know it right now, because I've been pretty quick at messing it up again. I didn't bring it back in the house when I brought everything else back in the house from the sewing, and I have been full on, I'm going to lean forward here to get my embroidery, full on embroidering away on my little front panel. I gotta say, I did trace it on a little to one side, so let's hope I can fix that in the sewing. I may have a little bit narrower front and a little bit broader back. Let me scratch my eye here. Have you noticed I'm always sort of itchy in the morning? Yeah. And let's get this up a little higher. I'm moving you around a lot, so excuse me for the movement. I think you probably prefer the other camera for its lack of movement, but it's quite the palaver to set up. And outside and the noise just did me in. We'll get there eventually. I think once I get back home to Portland, I'm just going to set the camera up and leave it up, so it will be much easier. Yeah, so I'm making progress. I've moved my hoop once, and I'm about to move it again. I probably have another couple of days of embroidery on this, depending on how much time I spend. So, and I'll talk about more of that. I may actually show you some stitches or something. That would be fun, don't you think? Sashiko Day. Today, I am going to give you a tutorial as to how to sew these into... Just a minute, gotta change hands. Into these. So how to make your Sashiko squares into these. And I think the next little Sashiko adventure I'm going to have is to go find, well, probably when I get home, because I have more bits of fabric at home than I do here. Here it's just muslin. I have muslin, I have a bit of linen. I could do it on my linen though. I might do it on my linen. I'll show you how to actually Sashiko on something plain, right? I don't have anything with holes in it, so I can't do that. But maybe we'll make some coasters freeform. That would be fun. All right, so the supplies you need to sew these coasters together once you have finished your Sashiko kit bit. And remember, I'm going to put the link in below again. You can get these at the shop. I have a few now. I think I have a set of 4 that is not up online yet. And then I have 5 more, only 5, so 5 people, if you want to do this, get them. I have 5 more of these 2-packs, 2 different designs. And then you need your work. You need a bit of this. This is natural cotton batting by Pellon, not sponsored. I found this at the fabric store. However, do I have a deal for you? I'm going to put the finishing bits in, because I had to buy a giant craft size bit of batting. They do not sell this in small bits. So what I'm going to do is I will, just at my cost, I'm going to cut this up. I really don't have use for this either. I'm going to cut it up into squares that are just big enough for these. And then I will bundle them up as an add-on. So you can just buy this, and if you have all this stuff at home, you can use your own. Or if you want to add on, I'll figure out how much it costs. It's not going to amount to anything more than a couple of bucks. So if you want me to throw in the Pellon square with the kit, I can do that. Now the other thing you need is a piece of fabric. Now this I'm not going to get for you, because half of the fun of choosing your backs is finding some backing fabric. And this, just for a couple of bucks, you can go get a fat quarter at any fabric store. You can go to a nice quilting store and find some funky stuff, which all my other guys are from a fancy quilt shop, because I was getting fabrics for my pillows. And then this is from the big box store, and they also carry fat quarters. So I don't want to limit your creativity and offer up my backing. This is from the big box store, but I do think, I'm going to hold it up, I think it looks nice. Oh, did you see my mess? See my mess? Yes, I have migrated a mess into the corner again. But, sneak peek, that's the yarn I dyed the last few days. We have new colors now. I will lay them all out when I do the dyeing video-ish. I'm going to probably have to... I got a little overzealous and dyed everything without it being on camera. So, but I have footage from other sessions, so I'm going to put together and then do a voiceover so that I can tell you how to do it. It is really easy. It's not going to take very long. All right. So, Sashiko Designs fabric. I think it looks good. And I happen to have... I bought this the last time I was down here, and this is one of 2 pieces of fabric that I did not take home with me, thinking, oh, I'll leave it here and do something with it down here. I have no idea what I was thinking. I just thought it was pretty. I like the batik with the lines scribbled on the top of it. And it definitely... The shape mimicry... This is how I choose what goes on the back. The shape mimicry is similar to the curved water lines on this one. I forgot what this is called. I'll have to look it up. And then the color is... Well, it's good with the indigo anyway, but then the color lines are nice with this, with the light blue and the dark blue. So this is the backing I'm going to use for these 2 coasters. I will probably take these back up to Portland, I think. Or they could be one of our drawings for Self-Care 2021. That's a good idea, actually. Maybe. So get your Sashiko on and then post pictures of it on the Instagram and or, because you know you get a drawing for each, or Facebook, and your name goes in every time you post a picture. So if you post when you get started, and then you post when you're halfway through, and then you post sewing it together, and then you post something else, you could win my finished 2 coasters and the other kit that is the partner for this. So I will pull one out for April, and you could win the Sashiko kit to do 2 and to get 2 that are finished from Tina. And I will throw in the finishing supplies, including the backing, so that they all match. So just remember that. I'll have to tell Kelly so I don't forget, because, you know, the old brain, not so good. Alrighty, so today, shortly, I'm going to have to cut this in, because remember, I'm no good at turning the camera live flowingly to do this. I will show you how to do this. It'll probably be this afternoon. We'll see. I'm going to drink my coffee first. And then I'm going to move the camera hands again so I can have a drink of my coffee. It's the curse of being a lefty and a righty. Yes, you will tonight, for tomorrow's drop, you will get this set part 2, one of 2 Sashiko lessons, and this will be finishing your placemats. I'll talk to you again at the end of the video. Bye. Your finished coaster is approximately 4 inches by 4 inches. What you need to do is cut 2, and this is a little bigger than 4 inches by 4 inches, so I'll be trimming it. 4 inches by 2 of the cotton needle punched batting, 4 inches by 4 inches wide. You need your Sashiko square, which is actually more like 5 by 5, but we need a seam allowance on it. So you're going to have your Sashiko square, your cotton batting, 4 by 4, and if you can see around my stitching, this should fit just inside the stitching, and I'll show you why in a minute. And you need your fabric squares that you're going to use for the back, also 5 by 5, or the same size as your not yet sewn Sashiko square. Okay? And I'm sorry this won't fit in the frame perfectly, but you know, Tina's technology skills are lacking. All right. Here is my Sashiko square and my fabric square. These are the 2 items I'm going to start with. What I need to do is put these 2 pieces right sides together. So the pretty side of my Sashiko stitching, the pretty side of my fabric. Now, batik doesn't usually have a pretty side. You can just put it on whatever direction, but because this batik is the cheap stuff and printed on, both on and not quite dyed through, that's how you can tell it's the cheap stuff. The good side is this side. So I'm going to lay it down face to face with my Sashiko square. And then what I'm going to do is mark a 1/2 inch in. Actually, I'm going to do it on this side so I can see that I'm lining up with this, with my stitch lines. I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch in. Now, I'm old and I have been stitching for a long time, and I'm brave enough to freehand this. If you haven't done much hand stitching, don't. Mark this with something you can see. A piece of chalk, a chalk pencil, just even a mechanical pencil or a regular Ticonderoga. I call them by their name because I was a math teacher and I have brand preferences. You know, a regular school pencil. Mark it. The silver should show up on this. And I don't have a ruler out with me. I do have a pencil sitting around here somewhere, or I did, because I used it yesterday. Don't know what I did with it. Anyway, mark a pencil line if you need to. Now, the other thing you're going to need is a spool of thread. I'm using, because I also have brand preferences on my thread, I like 100% cotton thread. This is Aurifil 100% cotton thread, and it's just a regular sewing thread. This is a coaster. You can use whatever thread you have laying around. And in fact, if you've been to a hotel recently, like we haven't because it's COVID's, but if you happen to have one of those little like sewing repair kits, go grab it now. Grab the closest color you have to your project and use it. I have beige and white with me down here, so beige and white it is. It's not a huge problem. My closing stitches are going to show a little bit more, but that's all. And in fact, I was too lazy to get up and get this until now. And I also decided my excuse was going to be so you could see it. I started doing my sewing line with the leftover Sashiko thread, and you can do that. It also made sense to me because I wanted you to be able to see the stitch line I'm doing. What you're going to do is sew around them on the marked lines a half an inch in from the edge, or equidistance. I prefer equidistance from my work, so I would measure actually half an inch out from each of the outline square markings, right? Measure a half an inch out here, a half an inch out from here, half an inch out from here, half an inch out from here. And look, I'm a little wide here, so this one may be a little bit bigger than the other one. All right, and then I'm going to sew, it's called a running back stitch. And what you do, you can tie a knot, it's fine, this is going to be hidden, is I do a back stitch. So you come up, go back one stitch, and then forward as many stitches as you can get on your needle. Very much like the same motion you did for your Sashiko stitches. So 3, and then I'm going to pull it. And this is a lot harder to do with the Sashiko thread. And then another back stitch. So go back, and then forward, and put them fairly close together. If I were using thread on this, I would these would be closer together, but the Sashiko thread kind of limits that. And then pull it open, stretch it out, and I have 3 running stitches. Now, is my stitching line perfect? No, it's not. If I had drawn a line, they would be more perfect. Is it going to matter? Not a ton. A back stitch. So I'm going back. Let's get some focus going on here. Move you into the frame. A back stitch, so I'm going to go back from where I came, back in the row, and I use the fabric to help me instead of my fingers. So see how I'm folding that fabric back and forth across the stitch? Pull it out. I could use a shorter needle for this. I'm using the Sashiko needle. A shorter needle would help me get finer stitches, definitely, like a quilting betweens needle. Again, though, not paramount. And this one, I'm lucky, the pattern came folded, so I'm just using that fold as a line. If you can see that my line is straighter here and here, because I had a mark, and it's not as straight here or here, because I didn't have a mark. Back stitch, 3 forward, and this is basically all I can pull, which is why I pick 3. Just as a rhythm that I've gotten into. Back stitch and then go forward 3. It doesn't matter. You can go forward 2 and do a back stitch. You can do a back stitch on every one. All we're trying to do is get these 2 pieces anchored together. 2, 3. Ooh, went a little cattywampus there. Let's go back over. 1, 2, 3. It's because I'm looking at the camera, not my stitching. There. Back stitch. 1, 2, 3. There. Back stitch, 1, and I'm gonna go just this 1 stitch because I'm pretty close to lined up with this side. Yep, I am. 1 little stitch here, and then I'm gonna go meet up. Now the only reason I can do this as decently as I can freehand is I have been sewing for, I'm 57, so I've been sewing for 40-something years. I think I was 8 when I first learned to sew on a sewing machine, and I was doing handwork well before that. Definitely not 4, like I have had some people tell me they started. But I was a reasonable age. There. And we're around. Oh, and we shouldn't have gone around. Poodles. Let's back this up a little bit. So, I just closed this. Now what's wrong with that? I need an end open. I need to leave an end open. But I have a solution for that. When you mess up, all I have to do is unravel my starting place. I wasn't super happy with it anyway because it's a little more than a half an inch away from my work. So I'm going to clip my beginning knot. I've also clipped the end of my work. And I'm going to back it up. So we're going to go back to here. Go back to here. And I'm just using the needle I sewed it with to pull it back. Go back to here. We're going to take it one more because I want a little edge. I gotta secure this somehow. And then this, I'll take all the way up. This is what happens when I start talking and I don't pay attention to what I'm doing. There. There. And the good, I also happen to know that I hadn't done as many back stitches on this side. So, also easier to take out this side. There. All right. Done. I've opened up a side. Now I'm just going to go in and secure this. This one. So what I do to secure really short ones like this, I'm going to put my needle through ahead of time in preparation to pull it through there. And I'm going to thread it off camera because I have to lick my thread and look at it really close to get it through the needle. So, and did you notice I use toenail clippers to clip my yarn? Normally I use my teeth, but it just so happens that I broke a tooth while I'm down here. And oh my, this is even short for my tolerance level. Need my needle threader, which I have, but it fell. There we go. All right, I've got this threaded. I've got it pre-loaded through. I'm going to pull it through, and I'm going to loosen this up and use my needle to pry that end through. Or a hook for that matter. I could use a crochet hook there. There's my knot. Plenty secure enough. So that end's secured. Now this end is absolutely long enough. All I have to do is rethread it. The hardest part for my old eyes. Rethread it. I'm going to run it through and through that loop and secure it. It's just the edge of this, and I'll be restitching this with thread this time because then I can hide my stitches better. All right, so I have my sewn up around 3 sides coaster. Now I have my batting, and this batting needs to be just inside my stitching lines. And see how this is just like right on them, if not a little bit over? It's very close to in. And then let's look at size here. It's also much too long. So I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to trim now. So I'm going to trim off this side. And I'm going to show you this bit, but then I'm going to move aside because I have to be able to hold this in the air in order to make it straight. So it's already a little crooked, so I'm going to trim this a little bit. And it's okay. In fact, it's optimal if this is a little smaller than. So see how this is a little smaller than inside there? Maybe 1/8 of an inch inside each line. And I need a little bit more length off. Just the tiniest bit of length off. There. All right. It is ready to insert. I am going to also trim this. So I'm going to cut off the corners. Oh, let's get this in the view. I'm going to cut off this corner again. Don't cut your stitching. Cut just inside your stitching. I'm going to bevel these corners. So cut them off as well. We'll use them to fold in just a minute. There. And then I'm gonna, this is called grating. The Sashiko is my thicker fabric, so I'm gonna trim both. So we're gonna trim them the same width, like this. Trim them about 1/4 inch, a generous 1/4 inch. Okay, a generous 1/4 inch. There. But then I'm gonna go in and I'm going to trim the quilting cotton a little bit closer, more like just over 1/8 of an inch. And these are not the finest scissors on the planet, and I ordered some better scissors, but guess what, they didn't arrive. There. So it's called grating your fabric, and I'm just trimming this one even closer to my stitching line, very gently. There, see? Whoop, sorry, I bumped you. Let's get that little bit out. There. So you're going to grade that. This is about 1/8 of an inch narrower than the darker blue. And I'm going to do that all the way around, not out of the camera. All right. So we have stitched around the outside on 3 sides. I have trimmed and graded. So the lighter weight cotton is a little bit narrower than the heavier weight cotton from the Sashiko thread. I have trimmed the corners down, or beveled the corners down here, being very careful not to cut your stitch line. Trim those corners. Next, I have my cotton batting. I'm going to lay this on here and start trimming away so it is just smaller than my stitching line. Trying to keep it straight. Not easy, but this, a little bit of straight on this will be your friend. And it is just inside. So there we go. And a little bit more on the length. And this is your mileage will vary. So, see how it's just inside the lines there? I can see the lines. This one probably didn't quite have to be this far in, but it's going to be fine. Okay, now I'm going to lay this on top of my Sashiko stitching. Wrong side, right? And I'm going to turn it with that in place. And this just helps me get it in the right position. I'm going to turn it. This is not stitched down in any way. Theoretically, I could have tacked the corners down, but I don't want to have to see my stitching on the inside. But this is helping me get this into position without having to stuff it in after the fact. All right, it's in, and I have a coaster except for my open end. Now, this time my corners popped out quite nicely. If they don't, very carefully take your closed scissors or a kitchen knife with not a sharp edge, or a skewer works great, bone folder works great, anything that's got a little sharp tip. And there my corners popped out. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is fold in this other side, and I'm going to do so, I'm going to start with the Sashiko side just because it's a little firmer. And what I'm going to do is, it's trimmed here in the corner, I'm going to fold it in over my batting, and then I'm also going to fold in with my fingers the quilting cotton as well. When I'm stitching, I'm going to use my needle to help poke in this beveled corners as well. But to the best of my ability, I'm going to fold it in. Fold them in, fold them in. Try to make sure that they're folded in equidistant as the other side. And I could press this as well, it would be fine. Straight pin or clip, pin these in like that. And see, this is sticking out, so I'll go in and I'll mess about with it, getting it in. Pin it. Pin the other one. Again, fold this in. Fold this in. Fold the other end in. And again, because I'm blind, I would have this tucked up right next to my face, and I'd be examining it closely. And again, pin closed, because I'm going to come back I'm going to come back with my needle and thread. And now this is the part where if you have a matching thread, and in this it would be the blue range, probably the darker blue, but maybe a medium blue. I am going to try and hide hand stitches from the outside. And there are a couple stitch options. On my coaster, I just did a whip stitch because I didn't mind very much. But what you can also do is a blind stitch, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. All right, I've gone in and I've just, even though this is pinned, I'm pushing down a little bit so that I can not see the raw edges. What I'm going to do is with my needle, open that up, go under the Sashiko fabric, and position my needle out to this edge. There, see how it's coming out right there? And I'm going to pull that in. That's just to hide my knot. Make sure my edges are down. There. And I'm going to see, I just ID'd part of the other yarn, and I'm going to pull that up so I can get a nice crisp corner. And then I'm going to go down the fold on this side, right like that. Pull it out, and then go to the other side. Again, always just tucking my raw edges in. Go over to the other side, down the fold. And for a blind stitch, you want these stitches to be fairly close together. So maybe 3 threads on the heavier weight Sashiko. You can count the warp and weft, but barring that, oh, I don't know, a millimeter maybe. Pull it tight, just tight enough so that they kind of pull in. Again, see if you get that close, just a little teeny bite. And there, and see they're tucking in. Not bad for a thread that should really show on this because it's quite contrasty. And there, and there. Now, if this were the dark blue, you would not see it at all. But even so, you can barely see that. So I'm going to carry on stitching across with my little blind stitch. If you don't mind your stitches showing, you can do a whip stitch, just catching both sides with your needle. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. Little bite. Even with the whip stitch on mine, because I used a matching thread, you can't really see it. So this is the other option. Take a little teeny bite on both sides, pull tight, little teeny bite on both sides, pull tight. And in this one, because I'm not running my thread underneath, you see a line instead of just a little stitch. Okay? When this is all stitched across, I'm going to press it. Maybe work on pulling some of those corners out just a little bit more. That one is in, and you know, it's not just, you don't have to just go into the inside. You can use your needle to pull it out to a better point. There, I pulled that one out a bit, and there. A little bit more stitching, and then I have two finished coasters ready to put the drinks on, or ready for you to put your drinks on if you participate in our self-care 2021. I'll do a little closing face-to-face with you and talk about this after I get these finished, and you should have your crafting ready for the day. I'm back, and the Sashiko placemats. The Sashiko coasters are finished. Here they are. If you want to see my hand stitching, it is here. Let's get this lined up. There we go. There it is. That one I just did the overhead method. But you get a matching thread, and I'm telling you what, you can't go wrong. And here is, I did the hidden stitch on this one. My goodness, I did such a good job. I can't even see it. So here is the hidden stitch, and you just cannot see. I have not pressed these yet, but I did go in with a darning needle and just sort of poke out those corners a little bit more by pulling them out. So they're nice and crisp. I'll give you the good side. Nice and crisp corners. This one may be a little further than needs to be, but it's okay. And it's also part of the angle of the phone. These really are squarer than they look. So, there you have it. Sashiko coasters. Super easy to make. And maybe my next Sashiko thing, I'll go find some fabric and we'll just do it freehand and I'll teach you how to draw your designs on. Happy, what is today? Tuesday. I did go for my appointment, but nothing happened. He just talked. And then I had to wait. I now have to come back in June because I have to go through all the testing, treadmill and stress test and echocardiogram and all that, yada, yada, yada. But look, my takeaway message was there's only a 30% chance that this is something. Yay. We'll find out. It's probably nothing. I'm going to go with that until I hear otherwise. Okay. Happy, have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm hoping to dye, but I need to find some yarn because I got a little crazy and I did it all. If I don't have yarn to dye tomorrow, I will try and cobble together because I have taken some footage of me dyeing and some photos. So I'll put that together and talk over it and then show you all the colors I've dyed since the last time we talked about dyeing. Bye!